Un sobre polvoriento lo cambió todo. En un tranquilo pueblo del Viejo Oeste, Emily se quedó inmóvil, sosteniendo una carta de hace 15 años que nunca debió volver. A su lado, el vaquero permanecía en silencio, con los ojos llenos de recuerdos enterrados en el pasado. El atardecer pintaba el cielo de oro mientras el silencio crecía entre ellos. En ese frágil papel descansaba un secreto capaz de destruir el pasado y cambiar su destino para siempre. Emily abrió la carta con manos temblorosas, sin imaginar el peso que llevaba dentro. Las primeras líneas hablaban de promesas olvidadas y de un amor que el tiempo no pudo borrar. El vaquero apartó la mirada, incapaz de enfrentar el pasado que regresaba con cada palabra. El viento del oeste soplaba suavemente, como si también recordara. En ese instante, ambos comprendieron que aquella carta no solo traía recuerdos, sino una verdad que había estado escondida durante 15 años. El silencio se volvió más pesado mientras Emily seguía leyendo. Cada palabra de la carta abría heridas que el tiempo nunca había cerrado. Hablaba de una promesa rota, de una mujer que esperó hasta el final sin respuestas. El vaquero apretó los puños, recordando el dolor que había intentado olvidar durante años. El polvo del viejo pueblo flotaba en el aire, como si el pasado mismo hubiera regresado para exigir justicia y revelar la verdad oculta. Emily levantó la mirada lentamente, incapaz de creer lo que acababa de descubrir. El vaquero finalmente habló, con voz baja y rota, como si cada palabra le pesara en el alma. Admitió que huyó de su pasado, dejando atrás un amor que nunca dejó de perseguirlo. El sol comenzaba a ocultarse detrás de las montañas, tiñendo todo de rojo y oro. En ese momento, el pasado dejó de ser un recuerdo y se convirtió en una realidad imposible de ignorar. Emily dio un paso atrás, aún sosteniendo la carta como si fuera una verdad demasiado pesada. El vaquero bajó la mirada, lleno de culpa y arrepentimiento por los años perdidos. El viento del oeste soplaba con fuerza, levantando polvo alrededor de sus botas, como si la tierra misma estuviera recordando el dolor. Ninguno de los dos sabía qué decir, porque algunas verdades no necesitan palabras, solo silencios que lo cambian todo para siempre. El vaquero finalmente se quitó el sombrero y respiró hondo, como si estuviera soltando 15 años de silencio. Sus ojos reflejaban un dolor profundo que nunca había mostrado a nadie. Emily lo observaba con una mezcla de confusión y compasión. La carta seguía abierta entre ellos, como una herida que no dejaba de sangrar. El cielo del oeste se oscurecía lentamente, y en ese momento ambos entendieron que el pasado ya no podía permanecer enterrado. Emily volvió a leer la última parte de la carta con manos temblorosas. Entre las líneas desgastadas, encontró un nombre que le resultó extrañamente familiar, como si hubiera estado conectado a su vida desde siempre. El vaquero levantó la mirada de golpe, reconociendo el mismo nombre que había evitado durante años. El aire se volvió pesado, casi imposible de respirar. En ese instante, el secreto dejó de pertenecer solo al pasado y empezó a formar parte del presente. Emily's eyes widened as she unfolded the final hidden note inside the letter. Her heart began to race when she realized the truth was far deeper than she imagined. The cowboy stepped closer, sensing something had changed forever. The wind grew colder, and the quiet town seemed to hold its breath. In that fragile moment, both understood that this letter was not just about the past. It was a bridge connecting two broken lives that fate had refused to forget. Emily slowly looked up, her expression filled with shock and disbelief. The cowboy saw the change in her eyes and immediately knew the truth was finally out. Years of hidden pain surfaced in his silence as he struggled to speak. The dusty western street felt frozen in time, as if even the wind had stopped. In that moment, the letter became more than words. It became a confession neither of them could escape anymore. Emily stepped closer, her voice trembling as she asked the question she feared most. The cowboy closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering strength from his painful memories. He admitted that he had made a choice years ago that changed everything. The golden sunset behind them slowly faded into darkness, reflecting the weight of his regret. In that silent western town, the truth finally stood between them, impossible to ignore or erase anymore. The cowboy finally spoke again, his voice heavy with emotion and regret. He explained how fear and misunderstanding had torn him away from the life he once loved. Emily listened in silence, holding the letter tightly as if it were the only thing keeping her grounded. The night wind moved through the empty streets, carrying echoes of the past. In that moment, forgiveness felt distant, but truth had finally begun to heal what time had broken. Emily lowered her gaze, trying to understand the weight of everything she had just heard. The cowboy stood still, as if waiting for judgment that never came. The letter between them felt heavier than ever, filled with years of unanswered questions. The stars slowly began to appear above the western sky, watching silently over their pain. In that quiet moment, both realized that the past could no longer be changed, only accepted and carried forward. Emily took a deep breath and stepped slightly closer, her voice soft but steady. She said that truth, no matter how painful, deserved to be heard without hatred. The cowboy looked at her in disbelief, as if he had not expected kindness after so many years of guilt. The night in the western town grew colder, but something inside both of them began to soften, as if the weight of the past was slowly starting to lift. The cowboy finally met her eyes, his voice breaking as he spoke the words he had carried for years. He admitted that he never stopped thinking about what he lost. Emily listened quietly, feeling the depth of his pain rather than anger. The western wind moved gently through the empty streets, carrying away silence but not the memories. In that fragile moment, both understood that some connections never truly disappear, even after time tries to erase them. Emily slowly unfolded the letter once more, reading it as if searching for something she had missed. The cowboy stood beside her, no longer hiding from the past, but facing it fully. The words on the paper felt alive, carrying emotions from years ago into the present moment. The western night grew deeper, but between them a quiet understanding began to form. Nothing could undo the past, yet something new and unexpected was beginning to take shape. The cowboy stepped back and looked toward the empty horizon, as if trying to find peace in the distance. Emily noticed the pain still lingering in his silence. The letter slipped slightly in her hand, reminding her how fragile their reality had become. The night air in the western town was still almost sacred. In that quiet tension, both realized that some truths don't destroy people. They reshape them, leaving behind something softer, wiser, and deeply human. Emily stood still, holding the letter close to her chest as the cowboy remained silent beside her. The weight of everything revealed between them felt almost unbearable. The western night stretched endlessly above, filled with distant stars watching their story unfold. Neither of them spoke because words no longer felt enough. In that quiet moment, both understood that the past had finally caught up with them, not to destroy them, but to force a truth that could no longer be ignored. The cowboy finally broke the silence, his voice low and steady, as if each word cost him something. He said that running from the past had only made it stronger. Emily listened carefully, feeling the honesty in his confession. The wind moved gently through the western town, carrying away dust and memories. In that moment, something inside both of them shifted. Pain was still there, but so was a fragile understanding beginning to take its place. Emily lowered the letter slowly, her eyes filled with emotion she could no longer hide. The cowboy stood waiting, not for forgiveness, but for honesty. She finally spoke, saying that the truth had changed everything, but it didn't have to end everything. The night around them felt softer now, as if the western sky itself had begun to heal. Between silence and pain, a small space of hope began to grow, quiet but powerful enough to matter. As the first light of dawn touched the western horizon, Emily and the cowboy stood together in silence. The letter was no longer just a burden, but a memory of everything they had faced. Neither spoke, yet both understood what words could not express. The past had finally settled, and the future quietly waited ahead. In that soft morning light, two broken paths gently came together, not fully healed, but finally ready to begin again.